Welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio, your show for all things positive, with your host, Kirk Spencer. Hello and welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio. This is Kirk Spencer, your host and producer. Today my guests are two non-denominational reverends, Reverend Rosemary Dalton from Missouri and Reverend Cook, also known as Stash, because you've heard him on the station here before. And we're going to talk about some great subjects today, but we're going to start with something that Reverend Dalton, I hope you don't mind me calling you Rosemary, because that's what I usually call you off air. We were talking about this actually yesterday, and actually when she called into the show last week, our live New Year's Eve show, she called in asking the question of where are all of our leaders? Now, she's asking for leaders. She's not looking for bosses. She's looking for people who inspire us to lead. And we're going to let her run with this one in a little bit. But she made a quote yesterday, or made a statement. I'm going to quote her. Religious leaders actually are the ones who lead societies. And if you really think about it, it's true. The politicians lead government, but leading the consciousness and the moral issues of society, that is usually left to your clergyman, whomever you choose to follow, and the particular religion and or denomination that you belong to. So she's asking, basically, in my words, where are all the leaders now, and why aren't there? Why aren't there any? And where are the Martin Luther Kings, the ones who were talking about peace, versus one who nowadays is sitting up here advocating violence? So with that, I'm going to introduce Reverend Rosemary Dalton. Welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio.
Thank you, Kirk. It's a very powerful topic, and it's one that people don't like to talk about. But it is asking a serious question. I can walk into any church and ask, why ain't you leading? Why ain't you doing what you're supposed to do? Why ain't you out there teaching the people how to not burn down the city? How do you teach people to do that? Why encourage bad behavior? And all I get is a shrug, or it's not my problem, or I'm not involved. And that's unacceptable. So when I asked, where are our religious leaders? Where are they? I mean, I'm not asking for bosses. I'm asking for the leaders, the inspirational, the people who bring people together, the humanity to restore it, to keep natural law, because we are the guardians of natural law.
Explain natural law, if
religious
you will.
leaders are not. Natural law is your God-given right. It's what you're born with. It's something that is unexplained and everything else like that. When, say, for instance, you birth a child, that child is created into you. You know, you develop it. You don't have to ask for government permission. You don't have to ask anybody's permission to do that. It just happens. And it's like it evolves inside you, and you grow it, and it's developing, and you give birth to it, and it's yours. It is naturally 100% yours. It's natural. And that is your God-given right to bear that child, to raise that child, to nurture that child without any government interference, without anyone saying, no, you're doing it wrong. That's not up to them. That's up to the religious society of your past and your cultures and how you raise your child. It has nothing to do with what the government says. It has nothing to do with what anybody's opinions on it, because we are all different. We all come from different cultures. We come from different backgrounds. We come from different religions. We come from different things of society norms. And with that being said, religious leaders are supposed to lead and protect these people and protect children and be the best interest of these children. But they're not. and that's a problem.
Reverend Cook. Sorry.
You can just call me Stash.
Thank you very much.
No, what natural law too. The continuation of that is you have the right to get up and walk out your door without asking permission. You have, the right to seek a full life in any way you choose that, follows your passion or whatever without having to get permission, as long as you're not hurting someone else in the process. Natural rights, natural law basically says do no harm. If you can pursue your life, you can have a great life, you can be happy, which is what I believe Creator wants for all of us, and you don't have to ask anybody. Can I do this? Can I do that? Well, is it going to hurt anybody? No. Well, then get right on it. Go ahead. But you have to file this form and this form and this form and pay this much money and this. No. I don't have to. If I want to travel across this country, in my automobile, as long as I've got the money and I've got the automobile and I don't hurt anybody on the way, that's my right. That is what I am free to do. My freedom to believe as I choose. These things, just to be a human, a decent human, and live a good life on this planet, that is natural law. And I defy anyone to challenge my right to a good life. And I have been rather vociferously for years. So
I was actually, I voice this question every now and then, even in writing. And it's something that came back from when I was a child. And I used to ask my parents, if we're born on a planet that was given to us by our Creator, and we actually can't leave here, we can go out into outer space, we can look down, oh, isn't that nice, we can go out to the moon and back. We haven't actually proved that we can go any further than that, at least not what is allowed to be known in public. But my question was to my parents, and it still is to society, and it is even from my blog from yesterday. The question is, why, if we're born here, do we have to pay somebody to live here?
Greed.
That's my question for natural law.
There you go, greed.
It's greed, corruption, manifestation of selfishness. The society doesn't think of one another. It's separated. There is no unity. And without unity, which is diverse, diversity is unity, it means freedom of choice. People mistaken diversity as, it's diversity of race, or it's a diversity of culture, or a diversity of religion. No, diversity means choices. It means we have choices. It's our freedom of choice. We're different, but yet we're the same. In order for us to be a human, we have little bitty cells in all of us that have to be diverse to work together, or we won't be who we are. So from every little microorganism to every manifestation of man-made objects, we have diversity. And without diversity, we can't be who we are. We are different, but yet we are the same. We are all from the human race. We are all one race. Mm-hmm. But we are not. We're just different. And with us being different and unique makes us individual, and makes us individual with individual thought. It makes individual thought and individual consciousness, which makes us succeed where each of us have a special gift. We have something to offer society to make it better. But people don't see that. What they see is greed, self-worth, me, and they got the me syndrome, and they're spoiled. And they're not looking at, that's my brother and they're hurting, or that's my sister and they need help. They're not looking at it like that. They're not looking at it as a family value portion of it, where that's the fault of it is the religious leaders. The religious leaders did not teach them that. Instead, they teach them adversity. And adversity is segregation, separation, no family unit, no family unity. They've made it out an outcast as saying, I'm right, you must listen to me or you're going to burn in hell. And that's not how it's supposed to be. Because our Creator, as how some put it, or God, which is a broad name, it's a broad, very broad name, meaning God means unknown being. And with it being unknown being, that means we don't know what God is. God could be anything. And we don't know. So as long as we don't know, and no one's ever physically seen God, so we do not know what God is, but we know He's there, we're connected. We just know it. It's a spiritual thing. Our soul, our spirit feels it, which makes us our consciousness. And our consciousness is part of our soul. And that lives on. That's energy. And with that energy and that consciousness, people saying, well, what is God? Unknown being. God is the greatest power there is. It's the greatest consciousness there is. And that is who created us. And for you to sit there and say, no, it don't work that way, or no, it's all about me. Well, all about me syndrome, me, spoiled little brat, it causes destruction. And that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with the me syndrome. Nobody is willing to step up. No one is willing to do anything they're supposed to do except greed. Greed, money, power, self-worth, egotistic. And it's even in the churches, because they're controlled by money. They're controlled by politics. They're controlled by government because they want that money. They want to have riches instead of taking that sacrifice and saying, I want the better for mankind. I want the better for the planet. I want to live here in a happy place so we're all one with one another. They're not doing that like they're supposed to, the way we're taught to do. And instead they've ignored their calling and allowed their greed to manifest, where it's all about what they want and they're only pushing their beliefs instead of teaching people to go into their own spiritual path to awaken them. Instead, they'd rather keep them blind and keep them as sheeple to follow and say, just do as you're told, and kind of thing where you obey the government instead of, hey, I have a free mind. I'm a free thinker. I have consciousness. This isn't right. No, I ain't agreeing. You can't make me. Because we are here together. This is our home. This is our planet. And only we can make it work. Only we can make it survive. Only we can make the changes. Only we can make society better. Nobody can do that. We as people, we as the society, and who runs the society is the religious leaders. And if the religious leaders don't get up off their butts and teach the people how to unite and be family like we were supposed to be, then it's all causing adversity. And there's no diversity. Diversity and adversity are two different, totally separate things. And what is being taught in schools is adversity. What is being taught everywhere is adversity. Why is there so much hate and so much racial slur? Because they're adverse. There's no diversity. If they got more diversity, there'd be less hate. If they did more diverse things, they would understand that we are one. We are together. We are one race. We are the human race. In that case, we would not have no prejudice. We would have no racism. We would love one another, and we would help our brothers and sisters when in need.
Indeed. Stash, we've got about 1 minute. Do you have something that you'd like to say before we go on a break?
Well, along these lines, of course, this is a whole cultural paradigm that has evolved over millennia. When people first decided that, we can control people and help them be more civilized by creating a religion and keeping people in the dark and fostering a culture of control and greed. And I say 90% or more of the world's problems are caused by greed. Keep our control by putting people in competition with each instead of cooperation. And a whole social paradigm has grown up where we have to compete with each other. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. and we're going to make sure we're the winners because we control it. For many, many, many centuries, the church has controlled politics, controlled, kings and queens, with threats of excommunication or death. And finally now people are realizing, hey, we don't need the church to lead us to God. We have an innate, inborn connection. And, it's like that movie Death of a Salesman. We're going to cut out the middleman.
Yeah.
I don't need the church to talk to God. I can go out and sit with my feet in a stream in the middle of a forest, and I can look up and I can say, hey, God, good job. Thank you. Thank you for everything. And here's where I'm at. Help me figure out, where I am, who I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing.
Indeed. With that, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in about a minute, so stay tuned. And we'll return with my guest, Reverend Dalton and Reverend Cook, a.k.a. Stash. Be right back.
Hi, this is Al Sussman, the author of Changing Times, 101 Days That Shaped a Generation, published by Parading Press. And you're listening to the always interesting Kirk Spencer on K-Wave 6 Radio.
Are you ready to put an end to thinking about how you wish it were and take action? Take this step to find out more by going to coachingbyria.com. And you can receive your free consultation session with Coach Ria. Coach Ria is a certified professional life coach with a passion to help make the difference in the world.
Hi, this is Lisa Avebury, and I am with Sacred Introvert Retreat Tours. We're heading off to Glastonbury this May, and we hope you'll join us. So check it out, sacredintrovert.com. And I'm at K-Wave 6 Radio, and I'm feeling super honored and blessed to be here. Have a beautiful day.
Hello and welcome back to K-Wave 6 Radio. We have as our guest today Reverend Rosemary Dalton and Reverend Cook, also known as Stash, for those of you who have been around and heard his voice on our show many times. We left off with a great subject, and we're going to pick up with two questions that I wrote down, and I did not tell them about this on the break. So, the two questions, actually I'm going to put together. In yesterday's podcast, I was talking about being able to figure out where you want to go, so on and so forth, and it was just called The Problem Is. And one of the problems I listed there, and Stash and I think we talked about this last week, was colonization. In other words, Europeans came to other parts of the world. I said came because I'm in Mexico, and, well, the United States, they came there too, and they colonized. And, of course, they made it a corporation, which most people think is just a country. But if you think about it, the city, the town, whatever you live in, is incorporated. And that doesn't mean probably what you think it means. It's a corporation. So, anyway, without dilly-dallying on that any further, the other side of this is that with the colonization came, along with the disparity of financial greed on the part of the colonizers in giving their pittance of the earnings for the resources that they've taken from your land. It's kind of like I said, the American dollar has never passed the value of the pound or the euro. And as I gave a simple explanation, the servants or the slaves cannot earn more than the masters. So, of course, even though the United States is considered to be one of the richest nations on the planet, it still has not exceeded the pound or the euro. The other side of this is that as we as people who live in these other countries, we are living as second, because the United States is not actually earning as much as England and other parts of Europe, then it's a second world country, and the third world country, such as Mexico, Philippines. The Mexican peso gets traded at 13 pesos for $1, and the Filipino peso gets traded for at 43 pesos per $1. So you can actually go to the Philippines with $10,000 and pretty much buy yourself a very, very nice home. So, with that being said, and the second question actually supports the first, which is, as Rosemary, she's probably started into that, but I asked her to define natural law, and we kind of diverted from there. Why aren't there any clerics that are still leaders? Where are the Martin Luther Kings of today? And she has an explanation about that, which comes from the government. So, Rosemary, would you like to take it from there?
Well, knowing where they are, well, with what you said, everything is incorporated. And the churches. When it comes right down to the churches, they have this law that in order to be a church here in the United States, you must sign agreement. Agreement with that's a 501c3. And in that contract, it clearly states that you can't go up against the government. You can't fight for natural law. You can't do all that. So because you can't do all that, our religious leaders in the churches, the big churches, are tied. They can't do nothing. Their hands are tied because they signed their lives away. They signed a contract. And in other terms, for people can understand it, you signed your life away to the devil for money. These contracts, these 501c3s, gives them grants. It gives them money. It gives them to build their churches. And in order to get those funds, they have to agree to their terms. And that's one of those terms. Well, then those religious leaders all over the world and the big all over the place are contracted through these, what they call corporations. So now they're tied in with the politics. They're tied in with the government. So who's left? Now, the ministries are the same way. You can't become a ministry without that contract. And it's like, okay, so now what's left? So now they've limited the religious leaders that keep natural law and order. They've limited them to make them where they have to obey. So who's left? What's left is the independent ministers. Those are the ones that are left because they are not obligated to sign the contract. They're not. They can't make a missionary sign that contract. And a missionary can travel anywhere and do anything. They are the freedom fighters, is what I call them. They are the ones that restore natural law. They're the speakers. They're the leaders. So where are they? There's a lot of them. Are they asleep? Are they waiting? What are they waiting for? I mean, if you go and you become an ordained minister and you're ordained, you're an independent minister, you're doing weddings, you're doing ceremonies, well, do you not know what you can do or the power that's been bestowed upon you? And that's what we need to find out. Are these religious leaders, because they're all religious leaders, whether they're ordained or whether they've been through a church or schooling or through an organization, or even a judge, they are all religion. It's all orchestrated. It's all about society norms. And we are the keepers of natural law. And with it being said, if all of them are tied down by contract and the only ones that are left are the missionaries, then shouldn't the missionaries be up there standing up, saying something, doing something, because all the other ones are contracted?
Reverend Cook, you were talking about, I believe it was you, it's either that or our dear friend Troy, on last Wednesday, and we were talking about what Reverend Dalton was just talking about is the signing of this contract 501c3, and it was talking about when you do that, the court or the judge himself is putting himself in as, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, the court puts the judge in as the high priest.
That is correct.
Okay, go expound on that if you would, please.
Well, the thing is that for a long time the church was in charge of government. Now, in our Western society, government has worked to take control of the church so that the church would go against government for a long time. When there were issues and it was wrong, in the church's eyes anyway, the church would go against the government. Now they have the fear factor. If you don't go along with our plan, we will take away your church, we will take away your money, we'll throw you in jail, you get too out of line, and we'll MLK you.
Yeah.
Or Kennedy you. Or, we'll suicide you. One way or another, they will remove you. This is why, in my opinion, a majority of the people, not just ministers, but people, don't speak up because they're afraid. They're afraid that if they speak up, someone's going to come in the middle of the night and put a black bag over their head and make them disappear. Or they're going to show up in the obituaries the next morning, yeah, they committed suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons, and the churches, the major churches, are going along with this, especially the Catholic religion, because the world is run by 3 independent city-states. There's the City of London, which handles the money, the United States, which handles police powers and control, and the Vatican, which handles the mind and the spirit. And they are the 3 richest organizations in the world because they have all of the power and they push people down. When you talked about colonization a little while ago, Americans didn't come to, find a new land and work with the people and profit from that. The Europeans were inbred for so long, their only thought is conquer, control, take, own everything. This is how we operate. We have to go out and we have to get anything or anyone that's in our way out of our way so we can have everything we want, which is everything. There's no such concept as coexistence in the European mentality, and that has been moved to America. And you can see the effects of it because our country is run by corporations, big corporations, huge global corporations that started here and moved around the world and took over. And if the people wouldn't cooperate, we would send in the CIA to, first their economic hitmen to try and bribe them. And if they were unbribable, we'd send in CIA to destabilize their government and take over and kill them. And it's brute force. It has nothing to sexuality or even being a decent human being. It is evil, insatiable greed. And that's just all it is, and that's what our world is about today. And this is, since the advent of the internet, people are waking up. This is our battleground. This is where people are learning the evils that are being perpetrated upon them, because once it gets out, you can't take it back. And there are good and bad people in every organization. And the good people are trying to do good. That's why we have whistleblowers. And the bad people are trying to stop them. That's why whistleblowers die in such large numbers. Why bankers are dying in such large numbers, because dead men tell no tales. And this is what we're trying to wake people up to move away from. But by the same token, the ministers, the church leaders are scared because they know if they step up and start really speaking out against the evils, that the government won't hesitate. They don't feel the slightest bit of, compassion. They'll go in and take them out.
Mm-hmm.
So what it comes down to is, if we truly have faith, then there's no reason to be afraid. And I'm not afraid. I mean, the worst they can do is kill me.
Well, somebody might argue that there's worse things than dying, such as torture. So, I don't know.
I could be tortured. I could be killed. That's nothing. That's the worst thing they can do.
Yeah.
I mean, I have nothing else. Then when they take everything from you, and they take your dignity and your pride and your self-worth, and they take everything away from you, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And now they're taking your children. They're stealing them. And once you steal your children, those are the only thing in the world that you live for. You live for, you work for, you provide for, you do everything in the world for your family. They take that away. We have nothing left. Nothing at all. And if we have nothing left at all, what does it matter what they do to us? So that's people become that hopelessness.
I agree with
Yeah.
you.
As
We're gonna-
Bob Dylan said, when you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose.
That's right. So why not stand up and speak up and expose? Get people to wake up. Because they've already taken everything away from us. They've taken our freedom away. They've taken our children. They're taking our rights away. They're taking natural law away. They've taken everything that is good for us completely away. And we have nothing else left to live for. We have nothing else left. And if we want to sustain mentality of mankind and sustain humanity, then we have to fight back.
Yeah.
It's time to wake up and face this evil, because this evil is at its greatest point. It's at its greatest era. It's at its finest point, and the only way it can go any higher. There's no way for this evil to go any higher.
I
It
think
has
there's a little
come
bit
down.
more, but we'll get back into that as soon as we come back from this break. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Reverend Dalton and Reverend Cook.
Hey everybody, this is Suzanne Perry, founder of LoveShouldn'tHurt.tv. You're listening to K-Wave 6 Radio.
Do you get writer's block or tongue-tied when you try to write or talk? Need a wordsmith for a script, article, or research paper? Let K-Wave 6 Productions help you with all of your audio, visual, editing, and language translation needs for your business or hobby. Does the thought of creating a website give you chills? We also have webmasters to help you with all your website needs. Remember K-Wave 6 Productions. www.kwave6productions.tk or email us at info.kwave6productions.tk.
Hi, this is Pat Kammer, author of Love's Voice Changes You, Book 1. And I now have Book 2, which is called Hello Awesome, Message from Spirit in Pat's Patters. Buy your book from Amazon.com.
Hi, this is Duke Mayo Rockefeller. Please check out my humanitarian organization, www.livechildlive.org. You are listening to K-Wave 6 Radio with our esteemed radio host, Kirk Spencer.
Hello and welcome back to K-Wave 6 Radio. This is Kirk Spencer, your host. We just finished with our half-hour break, so we are going to continue on with Reverend Dalton and Reverend Cook, also known as Dash. Before we left, as usual, we were talking about something that was really, really important, but I want to start this segment with, unless one of my guests here want to go someplace else, but let me ask the question. What do you think of mega churches? Because they are nothing but businesses. Matter of fact, there's one in some media magazine not too long ago, or newspaper, talking about this mega church where it's basically like a small town. You go to church there, you can go, you have a health club there, you've got restaurants there, but they have gift shops there. They have their own version of a Walmart, which is they can buy everything cheap and sell it cheap. What do you think of something like that?
I have an aversion to begin with. We were talking about that last night, Reverend Rosemary and I, with I had an idea for a song a while back, when people knock at my door. I'm sorry, but my karma just ran over your dogma. I was living along and your dogma just got in my way. This is the problem I have with churches. It's my way or the highway. No, it's, spirituality knows as many paths as there are people on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, it doesn't take a whole congregation, with one big goal. I mean, although that can help, there's strength in numbers, but there's just as much strength in individual belief, prayer, whatever. You can get to the same place all by your little lonesome, and you don't need somebody else telling you how to do it. You just basically, is that right? No. Then why do it? Is it wrong? Yes, don't do it. It's that simple. Is it going to hurt somebody? Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need being the grandson of a Southern Baptist preacher, a hellfire and brimstone spouting Southern Baptist preacher, it just turned me off colder than yesterday's pizza. And you will do this and you will do that and you won't do this. But wait, you're saying I can't do all of the good, fun things in life. Baptists don't dance. Excuse me? That somebody came up with a joke a while back. One of these days, the Ecumenical Council will get their act together and Catholics will be able to eat meat on Friday and Jews will be able to eat pork and Baptists will be able to drink in front of each other.
I'm sorry, this last one it crept up on me.
Well, but that's the whole idea. It's silly. It is absolutely silly. The idea is to expand your spirit, expand your consciousness, enjoy life, not to be bridled with a bunch of taboos that don't hurt anybody. That's it. That's all I've got to say.
Okay. No, I was thinking about the conversation I've had with each one of you. And we've spoken about it, and I'd just like to hear your comments on air. I've told many people, and you and, the three of us have had the conversation separately, is that within Judaism, every rabbi in the world will tell you if you want to convert to Judaism, their role is basically to turn you away from becoming a Jew. It's not the opposite of we're out looking for people to become a Jew, by the way that the Judaism looks at it, is different than Christianity, which, the difference in Christianity and Judaism, we can just compare it just between the two obvious ones. Christianity is looking for converts, and when you pray, or when they pray, they remove their hats and everything else because they feel that in their culture it is correct to remove any head dressing before you pray. In Judaism, it's just the opposite. We cover the head. Jews cover the head to pray, and they don't go knocking door to door. Hey, can I talk to you about the Torah? But the biggest part is that even though they are the ones who they will tell you, you don't have to be Jewish to know God. So, what is your opinion about that one on the air?
Ladies first.
Oh, you want my opinion? I was hoping you were going first. I was going to let you lead that one.
Oh, well, okay. If that's, I'll go that way. One of the bugs about that is proselytizing. If I want to know about your church and your religion, I'll go find out. If I don't, leave me alone. Thank you, no, close the door. And I have some rude remarks for some of those people who are really pushy, which I won't go into here. But the bottom line is, don't put it in my face. You have the right to believe as you choose. I have no problem with that, unless you're trying to either hurt me because of it or push it on me. I won't be pushed. Enough said.
I have to concur on that one. I mean, when people come to your door, I get a lot of people come to my door, a lot of missionaries and people from churches saying, here, you want this, and here you want this. Oh, you really want to talk about this? Really? And they go, yeah, we want to talk about it. Okay, come on in. And I set them in, and I talk with them, and I wind up schooling them. And I said, well, what makes you say that I am not with God? And they said, well, you don't come to our church. And I'm like, how's that anything? What I do, this is my church. You're in my church. We're talking about God right now. So therefore, we're in church. So, because God is present. So you want to argue that factor again? Why do I need a church to pay money out to be there to worship God? God don't need no money. What does God have to do with money?
Go ahead, Rosemary. It's a private. Well, it's not going to be a private joke very long, but it's a joke that Stan and I talk about all the time. Go ahead.
With that being said, and these people look at me like I'm crazy, and they don't come back. I tell you that. They really just don't come back to my house, and they stay away. I have knocked on my door 6 months now, and usually they came here every week, knocking on my door. And finally got tired of knocking on my door, and finally I brought them in, and I sat them down, and I told them, what do I need to go to a church to worship God? I worship God daily. I pray more times than probably you do in a day. I talk with God more times than you probably do, and I'm probably more spiritual than what you are. I said to be with God is to be with spiritual, not religion. Religion is an occult, and I am not going to be with an occult. I want to be with God, not cult. And they go, well, what do you, that's not true, that's not true. And I said, yes, look it up. Religion means occult, period. It's in the definition, it's in the dictionary, and that is the terminology for it. And I'm not going to be any religion. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to have that free will and free choice that God has bestowed me. That is natural right. That is our part of natural law, is my free views. I am not going to sit here and listen to somebody tell me, and I'm going to burn in hell, or I'm going to do this because I'm not saved. Well, how do you know I'm not saved? How do you know you're not saved? Just because you say you're saved doesn't mean you are saved. And if you're going to sit there and tell me that you're saved, but yet you're pushing the beliefs on me, then how can you not say you're saved? Because God said, do not judge no one. Mm-hmm. Leave that for him. God said, love thy neighbor. God said, thou shalt not kill. God said a lot of different rules. If it harms none, it can be done. Period. In a discussion. So you're harming me by pushing your beliefs on me because I don't want to listen to it. You're hurting my ears. You're making my brain hurt. Go away.
It's in my line now. Go away.
Go away. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm looking at them and they tell me I'm going to burn hell. I'm not raising children right. And I'm looking at them and I say, how do you know? Do you walk with God? Do you hold hands with God? Do you talk with God? I said, I talk with God everywhere I go. I can be in the store and people think I'm crazy because I'm talking to God. Wherever I am, if I need God's guidance, I'm going to sit there, close my eyes for a minute. I don't care where I'm at. And I'm going to pray to God. And you can't stop me. I do not need a church to pray to God. You have to be a religion to be with God. Who's to say who God is? Who's to say who's right? Who's to say who's wrong? Who's to say these books ain't nothing but a fictional story that somebody just wanted to use a propaganda for mind control? Who's to say? All you do know is what your heart tells you. You know what your mind tells you. You know what connection you have. That's what you do know. You do not know what's real and what's not. It's a mind control thing. We weren't there. We weren't here at the time of beginning of time. We don't know what happened. There's no historical writings or anything else that anybody logged down history when the earth was created. So Who's saying? So somebody comes to me and tells me, well, you need to be with my church. Well, really? What religion are you? Well, I don't want to be with that cult because you're limiting me to my consciousness. I want to evolve. I want to learn because I only know 1% of the what knowledge I do know. For all the knowledge that's out there and bestowed upon you, it'll take lifetimes to understand it and learn it all. Not one lifetime can you learn the knowledge that's out there. And for every book you become more stupid because it's a new chapter. You have to relearn everything. So every time you open a new task and you think you've accomplished and you think you got it and you know everything, but you really don't know nothing. You ain't even put a dent in what's out there. Why is that? Because our consciousness. There's too much to learn in such a little short period of time. And with that being said, our consciousness is where our connection is with God. It's spirituality. We are connected.
Indeed. We're going to take our last break with that, and we'll be right back, so stay tuned. And we'll continue our interview with Reverend Dalton and Reverend as soon as we come back.
Hi, this is Dr. Nick Leroy, and you're listening to K-Wave 6 Radio with its host, Kirk Spencer. I'm a holistic physician. I specialize in women's health, breast thermography, the alternative treatment of cervical dysplasia, and gastrointestinal disorders. And you can find me at drnick.net.
Hi, this is Amy Young of JSJ Phone. We are providers of junior iPhone, iPad, iPod, also Samsung, Sony, Nokia parts and accessories at very good quality and low prices. We sell to individuals, and companies have 3 to 5 days delivery time by DHL or UPS. We do delivery in 24 hours after payment confirmed. For more information, see our website www.jsjphone.com www.jsjphone.com. Contact me Amy Young mailbox emy@jsjphone.com or by phone 0086 134 1869635 by Skype emy.yang2012.
This is Belinda Farrell from Find Your Friggin' Joy at www.hunahealing.com, and you're listening to K-Wave 6 Radio.
Hello and welcome back to K-Wave 6 Radio. We're here with Reverend Dalton and Reverend Cook, and while we're on break, we have 2 little announcements to make. Well, one little announcement, and we're going to let Reverend Cook continue. I always want to say Stash because that's what I call him all the time. But at any rate, before we continue on, we were discussing while on break, we're going to extend the show just a little bit more, either an hour and 15 or longer than an hour and 30 minutes. So we have roughly about anywhere from a half an hour to 45 minutes to go on the show. So I hope you stick with us. But at any rate, while we're on break, also Reverend, Stash, said he had something that he wanted to continue with when we came back. So the microphone is all yours, sir.
Well, before we left, we were talking about proselytizing and people coming to our doors. The idea, I made a distinction a long time ago between spirituality and religion. One I practice, the other I avoid meticulously. And, people come to my house, have you been saved? My first question is, saved from what? And they say, well, if you aren't saved, you're going to burn in hell. This was mentioned before. Well, excuse me, I don't believe in your concept of heaven and hell. And if there is a hell, and I'm not living in it right now, then I don't want to see the place, and you're not going to save me from it. Because this world, compared to what I've read and learned about what is beyond where we are, we're in hell. And earth is heaven or hell as you make it such, not by someone else's determination. And then I have a question. I ask them, now, you believe in God, right? Yeah. God is everything, right? Yeah.
God is everywhere.
God is everywhere. God is in everything. God is all there is. So now, sitting in my living room, are you telling me that God is not here? Excuse me. I don't know if either of you or your audience has read the book Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. But the man from Mars comes back and he founds a new religion. And the basic phrase in that religion is, our God. I am, the concept, I'm God, you're God, the world is God, the air is God, the birds are God, everything is God, thou art God. Which to me resonated, making perfect sense. If God is everything, then I'm within and part of, therefore I am God, as you are, as is everyone else. I came up with a little thought at one point.
We're part of him.
Exactly. My idea was, God, God had a thought. What if Reverend Rosemary? What if Kirk? What if Stash? And we came to be. And we are living out God's thought of what happens if I create this. And we are to go and be what he creates. That's simple. Live a good life. Do the best you can. And whatever you do or don't do, whatever you learn or don't learn, this is the God's thought. What if? But he wants us to succeed, or it wants us to, the idea is to succeed and grow.
Yep, and to evolve.
And
to become one with God.
Exactly. So becoming one with God is just realizing that he's everywhere.
That's
that
right.
That you cannot avoid God. There is no place you can go where God is not.
That's right.
So why should I come all the way to your church when it's just, and sit in a stuffy pew in a suit and tie, when I can go out and sit in a pair of cutoffs and a t-shirt out in the forest with my feet in one of God's creations, running over my feet, and listen to the birds sing and the animals, do their thing, and the wind blow, and see the sky and the stars above my head, all of God's creation. Why would I want to cloister myself and suffer in a church? And besides, Kirk, I know you were chuckling earlier. Were you thinking about cannibals? The joke.
I was probably thinking about George Carlin.
Because that was a joke between us that we shared the other day. And, Christians come, and my first question is, how do you like being a cannibal? They go, what? And I said, yeah, who did they eat and drink at the Last Supper? Huh? Think about it. Well, that's a little symbolic, but it's still cannibalism. You're eating the body and blood of a being, a human being that they say, well, Jesus said, I'm the Son of God, but he also said, we're all the children of God. Most people miss that part.
Yep. Actually, part of what I was talking about when we did have that conversation is that I was talking to a friend of mine several years ago who was telling me the reason why he is not any longer a Christian. I don't know what he's practicing, but it's not my concern what he is practicing. He is a very genuinely nice guy and all that, so I had no problem with him. But his remark was, when he was a child and the first time he experienced communion service, and it was a thing of, I believe it said, here, eat of my body, and they're giving you this unleavened bread, as they call it, and grape juice or wine, depending on which church you go to. He says the symbology as a child was, I'm eating the body of a dead person and I'm drinking his blood. He threw up in church and he left. He never came back.
I did the same thing.
Oh, she's back. Good,
yeah.
good.
Yes, I came back. It came back on. I was like,
Cool.
Great.
So yeah,
welcome
I
back.
did the same thing. I lost for a second. I got lost.
Yeah, I was
But
noticing
you're
that.
found.
I wasn't lost
Amazing.
for long.
Here
Hey,
goes
that was
this.
amazing, Grace. She was lost, and now she's found.
I found my way back.
Yay.
Never mind.
Gotta have a little sense of humor.
Yeah, and mine just went way out crazy, so I'm not going to go there. Anyway.
Now, like you were saying with what I'd hear, I got lost there for a second.
Mhm.
I got sick at the same time. They gave me this, and they told me what it was, and I was only, what was I, 8 years old, and they're telling me this, and I looked at them, I said, I don't want to eat a guy. And they made me do it because at the time, my mother was Catholic, and you have to take communion. And they were prepping me for that when I get of age at 13 to walk down thing. But at that time, I told Mom I never wanted to go back. Mom made me go to church, and she kept making me, and kept making me, and making me, and making me. And I was like, no. My dad taught me other things. My mother taught me other things. And they made me learn so much because both my grandparents were reverends. And I lived in a very religious circle. My great-grandmother and all this and my heritage, my cultures, and these different religions coming at me at once as a child. And I just couldn't do the Catholic thing. I just couldn't do it. And at 8 years old, they made me sick in the pews. I threw up all over the place when they told me that I was drinking blood and eating the body and really sick. And I fought my mom tooth and nail. And when I became of age of choice, I chose not to do the communion at 13. I chose not to be part of Catholic because of that reason. I said, anybody that worships somebody about eating people and drinking their blood, I don't want to do it.
You know, one of the ways I feel I was extremely fortunate in my life is that my parents, I had the good fortune to be raised by two very enlightened and intelligent people. And my father being a typical Southern Baptist preacher's kid, you know, his immediate thing and lifelong thing was to revolt. So what they did, they took us, in the time I was growing up, they took us through every religion they could find. I mean, we through the Catholic, the Protestant, Methodist, the Buddhist, we studied Hinduism, we studied all of these things. And then when we became old enough to make our own decisions, my parents just stood back and said, choose. You
That's what my
choose
parents said.
the path that you wish to follow. And what I decided to do, take the best pieces of each religion, the things that resonated with me, and consolidate them into my own belief system. Mine, not anybody else's, and I never ask anyone to believe the way I do. They wanted to, because no two minds work the same. But it's just a matter of my own spiritual path. I can maybe suggest ways other people can get on their own spiritual path, but I cannot dictate how someone else should believe or how they should practice or who they should be. It is up to each and every individual person. If they want my help, I'll help as much as I can, but I cannot tell them what to do. So,
exactly. And that's the kind of upbringing my parents did, my grandparents did, and my whole family with the cultures and everything else. I was exposed to everything. And when it was become the age of decision, and I waited to make my decision. I mean, I waited until I was 27 years old to really make a decision because I was skeptical. I was like, I don't know. You know, with everything that I've learned, there's so much bad, but yet there's good. And it's like, okay, how do I piece all this together? And I don't want the bad. I don't want my life bad. I want to be fulfilled. I want to have that love for everyone. I don't want to have any kind of discrepancy that to make my brothers and sisters look bad. I want to love them all. And sit there and say, I'm this religion, then I'm pointing out that I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm not going to do that. So I just choose to be interfaith because I respect one another, and I take the pieces of the good from all of it because all of it matters. It's a message. And if you combine it all, you find the message that you're intended to have because no one religion has the exact message. No one religion tells the whole story. No one religion will tell you everything you need to know. So in order for you to truly know the message of God, you have to really seriously learn it. Learn from everybody's aspect, everybody's point of view, everybody's view of life, and you get your own. You have the consciousness of what you think is right and what you think is wrong. And as long as it hurts none, it can be done. And as long as you don't violate natural law and violate God's law, which is natural law, you're good. I mean, you keep yourself balanced. You keep your children enlightened. You teach them. Your job as a parent is to guide them in this world and teach them to walk with God. Not just talk it, but walk it. To walk the life. And that's what the problem of the world today is. They're not walking that life. They're saying, oh, I'm this religion, but they're not walking it. They're just talking it. Oh, I'm saved because I got baptized, but live that way. Do you really take those values to heart and really practice them? Are you loving thy neighbor? Are you considering each person your brothers and sisters? Are you really doing what you're supposed to do for mankind? Because if you're not, then you're not walking with God. If you're filled with greed.
I'm sorry, but that philosophy can be thrown into politics.
Exactly. Because our politics, they're still human. The people that are running these businesses that we so-call states and governments, they're corporations, they are people who run them. And they have a consciousness too. And they should be using that consciousness, that inner self, that walk. Because this country was built. Country, even on our dollars, says in God we trust. In the courtrooms, everything around is God, and now they're trying to take it away. Why? Well, how come? Because they're scared of it. Because they don't want the awakening. They don't want to be evolved. They don't want to know that connection. Spirituality is rising. And they don't want that, so they're trying to stop it. And you can't stop the awakening. You can't stop the consciousness. You cannot stop what's out there. You cannot stop the knowledge being bestowed upon and waking up these people saying, I don't want this. I want to do me. I want to find my way and have that connection. I want that connection. I want that connection with the earth. I want that connection with people. I want that connection with the animals. I want connection with God. And you can't stop what God is doing. God's hand is in all of it, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in a scientific fact, or you're an atheist. Regardless, there is a higher being here. There is an energy here that is more greater than any of us can ever decide what it is. Mm-hmm. But it's happening. It's evolving. And we can't stop it. We can embrace it.
Let me interrupt you for a moment here, because you're talking about, both of you are talking about leadership versus being a boss. This is how you lead people, how to be an example. I think it might have been you, Stash, who was somebody put up a post in Facebook. You've heard me refer to Facebook here for those who are regular listeners. I talk about Facebook quite often. Somebody put up a poster of three people pulling this great big heavy slab. It's a
That'd be
cartoon,
my-
so it's not identified.
That would be Reverend.
That was yours?
That would be my Reverend Troy Bello. He put he put that on his Facebook page. I stole it and put it on Everlasting Spiritual Awareness page because I agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there's the guy sitting on a desk on top of the slab, and he's yelling at the other three people, and he says, this is, I'm going to plagiarize a little bit, but this is being a boss. And then you've got four people pulling the same slab, and nobody sitting on the slab yelling, and the arrow is pointing to the one in front and says, this is leadership.
Yes.
Yep.
That is leadership. Getting out there and showing people what to do, how to do it.
Yeah.
Because there's no leaders anymore. We have dictators, but we don't have leaders.
Yeah.
And even in the churches, dictating. Their podiums are above everyone. They're not at below level. They're supposed to be below the people so that people can see them. They should be below people to hear them. They should be having eye contact with them and saying, this is how you do this. Let me show you. Let me show you the way. Let me teach you. No, they're dictating. You need to do this and then you burn in hell. You do this, and this, or you're going to jail. You do this, and this, and this, or I'm going to give you the death sentence. If you speak out, you're going to die. And that's not how it's to be. That's not leading. That's not leading. That's leading to destruction. That's not leading at all.
Well, you mentioned something just there about, and I'm going to use my own words here, about frightening people, because some of us have gone through that growing up as a Christian. If you the church, if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you are going to go to hell, and all these other little things. They frighten you to stay in their beliefs system.
Yes,
And
that's wrong.
exactly, it's very wrong. But I'm going to leave it there. Go on from there.
Well,
Well, let me
Well,
since you're
it's a touchy subject. It
go
really
ahead.
is. It's a very touchy subject because we don't want people to wrong. And who's to say Jesus wasn't here? Who's to say he was or wasn't, or if he was real, if he wasn't? I'm not going to doubt that. I'm not going to argue
there.
that. I wasn't there, so I can't sit there and honestly say that is the truth. So I'm not going to argue that factor. They have written history, they have scriptures, and that's the way I look at a Bible. It's a history lesson. And so it's in there. So you're reading it and all that other stuff, and it's like, okay, but is it really how it is? And for people to sit there and say, oh, you're going to burn in hell, you don't believe in Jesus and stuff like that. But Jesus wasn't God. It states it in their own Bible. Jesus was the Messiah. And Messiah means messenger. If they looked at the terminology, messenger means Messiah. And a messenger of God is not God. And God is an unknown being. That is the terminology. So if you use the terminologies and you want to really get into terminology, who is Jesus? Jesus is a son of God. Well, if Jesus was the son of God, we're all sons and daughters of God, because I'm the daughter of God. Reverend Cook is a son of God. Kirk, you're a son of God. Everybody is a son of God or a daughter of God. Everybody. So that is not a fictional, saying it's fictional, stating that factor, that he's the son of God. No, he had a message. He's got a message no different than we have a message. We are a leader. And that's what it comes down to. It's a story. And it's a moral story. And when it comes down to it, people are not living that way. Well, in their story, it says Jesus walked upon and he helped the sick and he helped the poor and he helped the hungry and he healed people and he did this and he did that. And it talks about a really great guy. And what is it telling people to do? This is the way you're supposed to be. If it harms none, it can be done. You're supposed to be helping one another. Jesus never said, oh, because you're a Jew, I'm not going to help you. Or because you're Christian, I'm not going to help you. Or because you're Muslim, I'm not going to help you. No, he helped everyone. He didn't care what religion you were. You were human. And that's the moral of the story. And that's what it is a story. It has a moral to it. And it's supposed to be taught for people to walk in that walk. Regardless of what belief you believe in, it shouldn't be about praise. It should be about teaching how to live in that standard of life. And they're not doing it. They're teaching incorrectly. They're putting the word of God out there incorrectly, which, in other words, would be blasphemy.
While you're on that, let me ask you to take a look at it from a different point of view. Same subject, different point of view. We're talking about people who are religious. And Stash, you've already made your comments about religion, so we won't go there with you again. But on the side of religion, let's just change it from religion to religious. And what actually got me interested in getting to know Reverend Dalton a little bit more, or should I say a lot more, because she perked my interest last week when she came on our live show. And she's talking about things not from religion. In other words, a dogma. How do I live my life? How do I do this? And we don't do this. And, oh, we don't do that. I've heard that so many times. It's sickening. We don't do that. Well, who is we? And why don't we do that? What is your choice? Your choice is obviously to follow the writ. So that's the dogma. But Reverend Dalton, we were talking about being spiritual, and we've touched on that subject a little bit so far, but let's give a definition for religion versus spiritual from your point of view.
Religion is a cult. It is a way to deceive you. It really is, because it only teaches you one thing. It does not teach you how to connect. Where spirituality teaches you how to connect with God, how to take from your center, to be balanced and one with your consciousness, and take your consciousness to a deeper level, to be awakened, to be in touch with all your surroundings. Spirituality gives you that balance, and it's greater than any religion could be, because you live by it, you breathe it, you walk it, you talk it, you produce it, you're centered with it, you're connected. And when you can feel the pain of others, you can feel everything because you're connected to everything. When you have reached spirituality, you are connected to everyone, everything. You're connected to the earth. The Indians have been practicing it for many years, spirituality. And they're connected to the earth. They're connected to the animals. They're connected to the spirits. They're connected to everything, because that's what they believe. It is their culture. And with their culture, it's such a beautiful culture. And they're so touched and so in tune with themselves that they only care about what's good for mankind and what's good for the earth and what's good for the animals, how to survive and to live among each other in peace, where religion doesn't teach you that. It teaches you how to be dictated and enslaved into your own mind, where you can't explore your consciousness, where you are being dictated to be told what to be taught and what to learn, instead of evolving into your spirituality, instead of evolving into yourself and learning who you are. That is the big difference between the two.
Let me ask you both this question, because it definitely goes with natural law.
Can I make a quick follow-up statement on that?
Sure, go for it.
One of the things that's pleased me more than anything is reading how the quantum physicists now are saying the same thing that the mystics have been saying for thousands of years. Nothing is real. Nothing is solid. Everything is energy and thought, and which is one of the reasons I started taking exception to a statement in the Bible that said, first there was the Word. There is no Word without thought. First there was a thought. Then there was the Word. Then everything else happened. I can see that. But even the people I know who are atheists can't seem to grasp this thought that nothing is real, that everything is some people say in the mind of God. We are the mind of God. Universal intelligence, this pattern in it that is the universal intelligence. We're it. And we're creating reality as we go along. And it changes based on each and every decision we make. So, it just seemed amusing to me that for once the scientists and the mystics are in complete agreement, and it's all spiritual, all thought. In some philosophies, we're nothing more than a standing matter and a great energy. said the same thing. You know, if you know God, if you know the universe, learn about frequencies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, we lost you for a hot second there just when you were talking about Nikola Tesla. I knew where you were going with that, but do you want to repeat that, or should we just move on?
He just said if you want to know God and know the universe, you need to know energy and frequencies.
Uh-huh.
And I have to concur with that. It's all part of spirituality. Spirituality is your consciousness. Your consciousness is a deep consciousness. And you get further, and it's called the awakening. And to awaken is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is what creates thought. And thought creates creativity. Creativity creates word. Word creates movement. And it's all pattern. And it's all diverse. Because each of us are different.
Yep.
That's where diversity fits in. Because it's not about religion. It's not about culture. It's not about race. It's not about anything. When people say diversity, they're wrong. They're teaching adversity. They're not teaching diversity. When you take diversity and pinpoint it only for a certain thing, that's not diversity.
Mm-hmm.
That's adversity. Yeah. And diversity is a whole. It's freedom of choice. It's consciousness. And it's the differences where you can take different perspectives of view and different aspects and open your consciousness to work together as one.
Free will.
And that is free will and free choice. And that is diversity, to love one another because we are all the same. We are all human.
Actually, when I was living in the United States, now you guys are reverends, you're ordained ministers, I was just a metaphysical teacher. And one of the things that I used to open my seminars with was I would always talk about the similarities in religion, and I would always tell people, if you look at the similarities in these religions, you find that there is a common core that runs through each and every one of them. And what makes them different are the details that everybody focuses on. And that's what causes fights and wars and other kinds of conflicts. But getting back to the question I wanted to ask, because both of you can answer this question, whoever wants to go first, you guys figure it out. But we were talking about colonization before, but there was a video that was shared on YouTube, and I think you can find it on YouTube, but it was shared on Facebook. And it shows a video of a culture, I think it's from the Amazon rainforest, and they're talking about they're happy, they're well-fed, they're healthy, and all the rest of this, and they don't have any jail system, they don't have doctors, and they live a long, happy life. So who are the ones who are uncivilized?
I posted that.
I thought it was you.
It is tribal mentality.
Yeah.
Looking out for the good of the tribe, the well-being of all.
Right.
If one person in the tribe goes hungry, then everyone is at fault. Everyone suffers.
Mm-hmm.
That's a simple thing. Then again, we come back to cooperation as opposed to competition.
Well, yeah. What was the tale that I heard a long time ago? I think, Stash, you and I had actually spoken about this one, but I know it was something I read and I heard something on this one. It was someone who went to Africa, and they had a group of kids, and they put something in a circle in a distance from these kids, and they made a competition. It says whoever gets to the circle first can have all the food. So they took off in a race, and there was a kid that was leading them by far, and just as he got to the circle, he stopped. And they kept going, come on, cross the line. And he waited for the other kids to catch up. And then they all sat down and ate. And then the guy's, obviously not from Africa, says, well, why did you do that? He says, yeah, I could have won it, but what fun is to eat all of this food by myself?
Exactly. That's the point of everything, is we are family.
Yeah.
And like he said, tribal. That means family. We have to look out for one another. So if we're all the same race and we're all human, we all come from the human kingdom, we're all brothers and sisters, why ain't we look for one another? And that's the problem with this world. today. We're not looking out for one another. We're doing everything for ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're not doing it for one another. And that's not right. It's just not.
That goes back to one of the up here in Oregon. I was in an area where the Kalapuya tribe lived, and they were big proponents of the 7 generations philosophy, looking 7 generations into the past to provide for 7 generations in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And if you live that way, you don't take more than you need. You do not indulge in greed at all. You, walk lightly and leave no footprint.
Mm-hmm.
Memory is one thing, but don't destroy Mother Earth in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that your kids are going to have to live here too, and their kids and their kids and their kids and their kids. What can you do to make this a better place for them? Because you're just one step in a long chain.
A long forever chain. And if we don't stop it now, there won't be no home for our future. There won't be no home for our children. There's going to be no home for anyone because it will be extinct.
And
in a
Mother
short
Earth
period
will
of
go
time.
on.
Right. She's going to kill everybody off. Behind is going to steam itself up with ash. And it's like the Phoenix effect begins.
Yep.
She's going to heal. And she's going to get rid of us.
Everybody talks about saving the world. The world doesn't need saving. We need, except from us. You know,
Yeah.
we
We're
need
going,
to save ourselves.
right. We're going to destroy ourselves and extinct mankind because we're greedy, selfish, inconsiderate, unkind, and only worry about one another. And that's something else to talk about. All they say they're religious, but they're not. They're mean and they're cruel and they bully and they push people to a breaking point so kids commit suicide because they can't deal with it. It's too much. They push and push and push until parents are ready to hurt themselves because they steal everything that they have, including their children. They push and push and push until people are so hungry. And like I had a conversation, about the lion in the streets because they keep them hungry and there's no food. So now we have all these criminals running loose because they don't have nothing. They don't have anything at all. And with them not having nothing, and then they don't have no homes, and they don't got no food, and they're starving. They're starving for affection. They're starving for attention. They're starving to succeed. They're starving to feed their families. They're going to do anything and everything out there to get what they need. So our prison systems are all full because of that. Do we really have predators? Yes, we do have some very evil people out there. And those people need to be behind bars. But when you push somebody to a breaking point where they have nothing and they have no way to survive, they're going to cause criminals. They're going to cause a unnatural society, which will cause inhumanity. And we are inhumane right now. And if humanity isn't restored, mankind as we know it will extinct.
And, you know, one of the biggest problems we have, like in America, is that the powers that be figured out how to get money and power through victimless crimes. A majority of our prison population in America is in prison because of victimless crimes. Crimes where, like, some bought an ounce of pot. Excuse me, but who did that hurt?
Or somebody stole a loaf of bread and some eggs from the store to feed their babies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go a little bit further than that. The prison system in the United States, there's a great majority of them are actually private prisons. So in other words, they're there for profit. And how do they actually earn money? Not just from getting people incarcerated. There actually is an industry in these prisons where they make things that are being sold in stores.
And the prisoners get nothing out of it.
Exactly.
They're
They make
paying
$10
for their
an hour.
incarceration.
They get $10 to do their work.
They
$10
pay
a
it
day.
in rent for being
Yep.
there.
Yep, 10 days. I don't know about you, but I don't want to work for $10 a day. I mean, I do this mission for God with money. I do this free of charge. Why I do it? Because I love to do it. It's my passion.
Mm-hmm.
I do it because I higher calling. But I still, people have to work. They still have to provide. My husband provides for me, and and that's good. And so I can do my work. But we still have to survive.
Yeah. Let me ask you two questions. Actually, yes, two questions. I want to hear your opinions on two things. I'm going to give them to you one at a time. This is something I put in my podcast for yesterday. The podcast is just called, now I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, just look in yesterday's podcast. Anyway, the question I have is, do you know, this is a question that I asked for people who are listening, do you know that you're free? What are your comments on that?
Well, we are free. We are
free if you believe it.
That's right. You're as free as you believe. If you believe you are controlled, then you will be. In order to be truly free, is to really open your consciousness and look around. You got to open your eyes and see what's what, and to be truly free is to be free within oneself. And if you don't do that, then you're being blinded. You're being sheeple, and you're just doing what you're told, and you're not being free at all. You're enslaved. To truly be free is to open your mind, to open your consciousness, to be one with yourself, to know who you are, to know where you belong and what your purpose is, to have free choice and free will. And that is to truly be free. To be truly free is to be happy with yourself and not let no one tell you that you don't have rights. Let no one tell you you don't have the right to free choice, because you do have a right to free think, to free choice, to have ideals, to carry out those ideals, to succeed and prosper. And no one has the right to hinder you on that. And as long as you believe that you have no rights, and as long as you believe you're powerless, you will continue enslaved, and you will continue to have no freedom. To truly be free is to be free with yourself.
Someone tried to tell me yesterday that a law was passed and there are no more sovereigns in America. I said, if you go back and read our Constitution, that is exactly what it says cannot happen. The government has no power to take away our sovereignty. But the only way you're going to be sovereign is to believe you are sovereign, to act like you are sovereign, no. To tell them this is not going to work for me and you follow my rules, not the other way around. The government is our servant, not our master. And
exactly.
We tell them what to do. And this is what's gotten lost, because people have lost that belief of sovereignty. It's been educated out of them over so many decades of a dumbing down education that they don't actually read what the laws are in this country, what the foundation of is, that we're all kings without subjects. We set up a system, a limited system, to take care of the paperwork, administration and defense. That is the main reason for the government. No more. They don't have a right to tell us how to educate our children. They don't have a right to tell us what we can do with our bodies and such. They don't have a right to take everything that we make, the fruits of our labor. They don't have that right.
They don't have the right to take our children.
They don't have the right to take our children. You're right.
They don't have the right to infringe or interfere with the property or upbringing of our families. They don't have the right to do any of that by Constitution. Those are natural laws.
That's correct. And it's protected in the Constitution. The thing most people don't realize, this was set up to limit the government, not the people. The people set up the government, and we put limits on them. Only the big problem is We went to sleep. That's it. We went to sleep. We became lackadaisical. And even Thomas Jefferson said, it's one of my favorite quotes, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Because there's always somebody there who's ready to take it away from you.
Yep. And if you're sleeping, then the problem is people got too comfortable. People got comfortable, got too relaxed. They went to sleep behind the wheel, and they let someone else take control instead of saying, no, wait a minute, stop. You're not allowed to do that. Well,
we got lazy.
It's protected. Yes, we got lazy. We got very lazy and got scared. What do we need to be scared of? They should be scared of us. We are the people. They work for us. They are the public servants. We vote them in to be our voice. And if they can't do that job to do right and do right for the people, then they don't need to have that business to be in that position.
Okay, let me ask you 2 questions. I was going to close the show in a few minutes, but I guess we're just going to stretch it out for the full 2 hours. After that, we can't air anything else. But anyhow, 2 questions just on what you're talking about, and they're like sister questions to each other. This is actually a statement. Your life is a reflection of your thoughts. One of you started actually talking about that a little while ago. And so what are your opinions on that? And if we were to be in court, is it feasible? Now, Stash, you studied a little bit more law than, well, I have anyway. I'm not sure how much.
He knows more than I do.
Okay, fine. So here's the question. If you get into court, if you have to go to court for some reason, would it be a feasible question? Remember, there's 2 questions here. Would it be feasible to look at the judge or where I grew up, they actually called them referees. I don't know why, but anyway, would it be feasible to look at this judge and go, was that a law that was voted on by the people, or was that one that was just passed by some state or federal legislature?
Well, the simplest answer for that was a Supreme Court decision that said statutes, ordinances, regulations, and such are all, quote, color of law. They are not real law. Since we have a corporate government, and everything in government is done by contract law, they have to follow the rules of contract. The same thing with voting. What we're actually voting for is not our government leaders or our government politicians, public servants. What we're doing is voting on the president and CEO of the corporation and the board of directors. Mm-hmm. They are not our public servants. They are corporate shills working for the United States Incorporated. Now, the laws that they're passing by the Constitution have been unconstitutional since the D.C. Act of 1871, when they became a corporation instead of our duly seated government for the United small letter U states of America. The states and the people are supreme. The government is just there to do our bidding, to keep us safe and do all the paperwork. That's it. So most of the laws that are in place right now are not, number one, true law, and number two, have never had any input from the people. And it's all stacked to keep the status quo going. The people that they put up for us to vote on are people that they have vetted and know they will continue on with the same course, that no matter what they say, in their campaign promises. How many politicians do you know that have lived up to their campaign promises? None of it recently. Everything since the original 13th Amendment, everything beyond that is unconstitutional because it was put in place by an illegally seated government. So, was it voted on by the people? Chances are, no. As a matter of fact, the odds are good 99% that they were not.
Mm-hmm.
They were just what some politicians said, hey, you know what we can do? And you know what else will happen? We'll raise revenue of this. You go to court, the judge is supposed to be nothing more than a referee, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
The actual judges in the case are jury. But they don't tell the jury that they're important that way. That the judge is just a referee. They have the ultimate decision. They don't tell them about jury nullification. That you have the right not only to say this man is not only not guilty of your charges, but the law you're charging him with is not law. It is not, we find it unconstitutional. Therefore, you have no case. Therefore, they're innocent. One person on a jury can hang a whole jury because it has to be the decision by the jury. Otherwise, if one person agrees, says, no, that isn't right, I don't believe in that, and you have a hung jury, and you either get a mistrial or the case is dropped. Everybody has to agree. So, and getting 12 people, let alone 24 in a grand jury, to agree on something is like pulling hen's teeth, So is it a law agreed on by the people? No. Do I submit to your jurisdiction? No, I don't. I am the sovereign here. There is no victim. There is no crime. I demand that you drop the case. In order to be the sovereign, in order to be whole in yourself, you have to believe that of yourself. You have to be that. You can't just feign it because they will catch you. I believe that no man is in control of my life. My life is my determination. It's where I want it to go. It goes by the direction I want it to go. And that is my right in this country and as a human being on this planet.
Exactly. He said that very well said. Being sovereign means being born here. This is our home. We have no other home. This is it. We are the ones that are born here. This is our country, this land. This is what we do. This is everything. We are the people. And we, the people, have not made these rules. We, the people, can rise to the occasion to say no more at all, because this is not right. And they can't do this because we are the sovereigns. We are the rule makers. We are the ones that's supposed to vote these laws in. We're not getting that chance and opportunity because I haven't seen no laws be put on the ballot for us to vote on. I've seen people, but no laws. Mm-hmm. Where are these bills? Because it's supposed to technically go, because I learned this in school in political science class, it's supposed to go through an individual senator to make a bill. It goes before the Congress and everything else after they get 100,000 signatures on it. It goes before the Congress, and the Congress votes on it. When the Congress votes on it, it's supposed to go further up to the Senate. The Senate's supposed to, at the House of Representatives and all that, and it's supposed to get voted on. Then it goes up higher to the President. Now, the President is supposed to veto it or pass it to put it on the ballot. That's what his job is. Is it worth the people's attention? And he's not doing that. Once he vetoes, it means it's not worth people's attention. If he passes it, before it can go into law, it's supposed to go to the people for vote. And the people are supposed to vote it. And if it's voted on, then it becomes law. And only by the people's will. That is the correct measure of it. It goes from one to a group to the whole thing to the president. And he has to decide, is this worth the people's point of view on it? Is it worth the people's to hear it? And if it's not, then he does it. If it is, it's supposed to go to us. We're supposed to vote on it. Every single vote is supposed to count. We are the lawmakers. They are not. They're supposed to make sure it's intact. They're supposed to make sure that we're taken care of. They're supposed to make sure we're protected. They are our protection from being a domestic enemy. They are not supposed to be an enemy of the people. They're not supposed to be an enemy of the state. They're supposed to be for the people. Mm-hmm. It's we the people, for the people, by the people. This country not ran for the government, by the government.
Yeah, we got it.
It's we the people.
Yeah, you answered the question. Both of you answered the question. Do you know that you're free? So let's go back to this last one. As we only have around 8 minutes, give or take, before the show was actually finished. Yes, we went up to the full 2 hours. The last one. Your life is a reflection of your thoughts. Can you, both of you, take maybe 4 minutes each and give us your thoughts on that one?
All I say is yes.
Yeah. It's definitely yes.
That was
Everything
too
you
quick.
do reflects on you. You are who you are. Since your friends are a reflection of you, whoever you hang out with is who you are, is how people do by. Judge a book by its cover, how your first impressions are. If you give a bad first impression, then people are not going to like you, and they're going to look at you like, why are you doing this? It's not right. Your reflection is who you are, how you carry yourself, how you think, how you process this, how you are with your children, how you are with your family, how you are with the society. That is who you are. It's your thought process. It's who you are.
Well, let me draw it a little bit more personal, because I don't want to get into a thing of people looking at people and going, well, I can see who that person is. We do that anyway. But for a person, for someone who's saying, I want my life to be better, but all that person does is focus on everything that's bad. I don't have money, I don't have this, and I don't have that. And there's never the thought of, I want to do this, and I want to gain this, and I want to, you get where I'm going with this?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the big thing that was made from this kind of a thought was the movie and the book, The Secret.
Yeah.
What you think is what you become.
Creativity flows where thought goes.
Exactly.
And if you spend your life worrying about what you don't have, you're going to get more of don't have.
Yes.
Or what if.
Yeah, and also the same can be true for wanting. Wanting means you don't have, and you're lacking. But if you give thanks that the universe will provide, the universe provides. There was another phrase there that goes along, the attitude of gratitude.
Yep.
If you live with an attitude of being thankful for all that you have, then more will flow.
Exactly. It's one of the most powerful messages is out there. I mean, greed, selfishness, egotistic, only worrying about self-worth, what ifs, why nots, how comes. That's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be satisfaction, gratitude, appreciation. You are what you are. You are at your maximum being capacity of what you're able to do. So you should be happy because you're blessed with a family of surrounding around you. You're blessed with not having to want or need anything. Just because the person next to you has an iPod, you can afford one, doesn't mean you have to have one. It just means that you have family, you have love, you have a lot of things that make you rich in life. And there's a big difference between being rich in life and just being rich. Being rich doesn't necessarily mean you're rich in life. I've known a lot of rich people who are actually very poor in life because they don't have that satisfaction and that appreciation of life. I'd rather be poor, honestly.
It's funny because I've never been a financially rich individual, but in my opinion, I am one of the wealthiest people I know. My wealth consists of family, friends. I have food in my stomach. I have a roof over my head. I'm free to explore, to learn, to do. These are things that I'm really grateful for because so many people don't have these things. And yet I've been blessed with all my life. And when more money is needed, more money shows up. But that's not the important part. The important part is that there are so many places in this country I can go, and I always have someone who will take me in and offer me a meal and a place to sleep and be my friend. I have many good friends and a whole lot of acquaintances that are all positive towards me when I meet them. And for each and every one of them, I'm grateful. The people that argue with me and challenge me to think, I'm grateful because it's expanding my mind. It's making me question my own values and confirm them or alter them as necessary to make me a better person for me.
To make you richer in life.
Yes.
Well, we have to draw this to a close, unfortunately, but we've run to our limit. So, Reverend Dalton, you have a website, or do you have some place where people can contact you?
Yes, I have a page on Facebook. It's called Everlasting Spiritual Awareness Group. Stash is connected to it, too.
And repeat the name once more.
Everlasting Spiritual Awareness Group.
Okay. It's a little bit of a long name, so I just wanted to make sure everybody heard it. Stash, do you have anything, or just everybody looks for you by your name?
Oh, I'm on Facebook as I Am Stash, and I'm displayed as Stash, and of course now I'm tied with Reverend Rosemary's group there, and probably be popping there too.
Oh yeah, you're more welcome. I want to have your teachings there as well. So I hope so.
I've already been contacted, and I'm friends with two members of your group. One on Facebook, two on Facebook, one on Skype already. So they're reaching out.
Cool. And for those who want to contact us, or you have any questions, if you don't want to go to Facebook, I don't know, some people don't like Facebook, send your inquiries to our email, which is info@kwave6radio.tk, and the 6 is the number 6, and that's spelled. So kwave6radio.tk, info@. Anyway, we want to thank Reverend Dalton, Reverend Cook for being here. I know they'll be back again in the not-too-distant future.
Can we do it again,
If you have any questions for them, yes, of course. And if you have any questions for them or something that you'd like to hear, you can either send me the email or you can send it to them through Facebook. Take your choice with that. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much, both of you. Reverend Cook and Reverend Dalton, just did that alphabetically that time. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you all again soon in the not-too-distant future. Take care and
Thanks
be
for
well.
sharing.
Definitely.
Take care.
Thank you for being a part of our listening audience. Stay informed of what's happening at K-Wave6 Radio at www.kwave6radio.tk. That's www.kwave6radio.tk. All the best for you and yours.